Hello, thanks for joining me. So I was looking through my video ideas list and I saw a very simple question as one of the ideas. And that question is, what is my MBTI? So what is my Myers-Briggs personality type, or what is my Jungian cognitive type? Whatever way you want to say it, right? Now, I say simple question. It sounds like a simple question, but for myself and for so many other people, it is not a simple question, right? Because it's not easy to answer. I don't, with full certainty, know what my MBTI type is, right? So I just wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit and flesh it out a little bit, because I find it interesting myself, and maybe somebody else will find it interesting, or maybe somebody can advise me. Now, I have made a video like this before, and it was only up for a short while, and somebody commented what they think my type is, and they said that they were an expert. And I've also been typed officially. I have been typed, as a paid paid service. Like, I paid to get typed, and I actually received the type in that result that I thought I was, or that I was leaning towards. But because I'm such a doubter, I think I'm always doubting my type, and lately I've been thinking about it, and there's certain things that make sense about a different type. So I'm just gonna be real. So I have considered myself an INFP for years, right? It is something that I always get in tests. Most sort of cognitive tests, Myers-Briggs tests that I get that I'm an INFP, and I relate to the letters. So I relate to like introversion, intuition, more leaning towards feeling, and more leaning towards perceiving, or not so planned, not so organized in some ways. But I'm not lying when I say that I am seriously considering INFJ for myself. And so when I look at the letters, the INFP, INFJ, it's like I'm always leaning towards, okay, I'm an INFP. But when I look at the cognitive functions, there's something about the INFJ that I just can't not look at least look at, right? And for somebody who's maybe a bit more well-versed in Jungian psychology or Myers-Briggs types, they might think that I'm being ridiculous or something, but I don't think it's ever ridiculous to want to change your self-definition, or to find out more about yourself, or to explore different possibilities or different types for yourself, right? I think maybe it's easy to just stick with INFP for the rest of my life and think that I'm an INFP, but there's so many things that seem to contradict that I have been talking about recently as well, where it's kind of like I relate more in some ways. And I know it's not just about relating to your type, it's about being a type almost, or it's about certain cognitive processes that you have that are things that are sort of fixed throughout your life, but they're also growing over time. We don't just stay the same over time. But I think it's easy to just kind of stay with INFP just because that's what I get in tests, and that's what everybody says I was, or says I am. Most people think that I'm an INFP. Most people that I've talked to about this would say that I'm an INFP. And I've kind of explored it, and I've taken it to heart. And so I do find it hard to let go of it in a way because of that. But when I really look at it, I could be another type. And one of those types that I could be is INFJ. And in any case, I don't think I'm in any way an evolved INFJ or a super evolved INFJ, if that makes any sense. So I think a lot of the descriptions that I find, I would think of them as like talking about an evolved INFJ, or somebody who is extremely helpful, extremely self-sacrificial, who has a mission and actually goes and does things to make that mission happen, or make that dream happen, as opposed to the INFP, which is more seen as a dreamer, somebody who has ideas, somebody who has ideals, and fantasies and dreams, but they don't really always, because of their inferior extroverted thinking, they may not always go and do things to make that happen. And I relate to that more than kind of going out there and doing things. But I think cognitively, I relate to, if that's the right word to use, I don't really like to use the word relate in this, but I relate to being the sort of person who wants to go and do things, or wants to put my vision out there in a way that makes some kind of practical difference. And it doesn't have to be this kind of big change in society that I create, right? And maybe that makes me not an INFJ, that I don't think like that. But I always want to be off. I want to always have purpose. I always want to have, like, that I'm doing things for some kind of practical reason for other people. I think that's cognitively where my mindset is. Like, even when I make these videos, it's, whether I want to admit it or not, it's always about me taking insights from the back of my head and trying to express them in a polite, structured, and useful way, so that hopefully somebody can take something from it. And this is something that I always stress, right, in terms of my videos. I'm always stressing that I want them to be interesting, I want them to be useful. It's not about me talking about my values, my personal morals, or my personal feelings on things usually. And maybe that's just, maybe I am more like, that would be the INFP, so maybe I am more like that in my daily life. But then when I'm actually expressing myself in like a video, for example, I always feel like I'm more of an NIFE person rather than FINE. So FINE would be INFP, NIFE would be INFJ. I feel like it's instinctual for me to want to express my insights that I seem to come up with out of nowhere, let's say. They kind of come out of the back of my head, but they are informed by SE, right? So that they're not random, but they seem random. Because the way that they're expressed, or the way that they're processed in me, it seems random, like it's a random intuitive insight. But it always comes from, or with the aid of, SE, which is looking at reality, which is looking at like what is here, what is going on really, right? So maybe I actually do have these insights and these thoughts because I have SC in the stack, and that is interacting with NI, and also TI is there as well. So it's like I'm coming up with insights by looking at reality instead of really participating in it as a person who's doing physical things. I'm not very physical in some ways. I'm not very I feel like I'm not all the way there in some ways, in reality, just in some ways. And that would be very indicative of sort of having an NI preference or an NI tendency, right? But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I am, because I feel like there's part of me that feels like I'm INFP, and it's part of me that's like clinging on to this idea of being this INFP person. But then there's a part of me that feels like I'm an INFJ or something else even. I could be something else. But it's like this thing about where it's like I don't feel like I'm an FI dominant. And I have talked about this with a few people, that while I do have times in my life where I am challenged in terms of my opinion or in terms of my value system, and I will react very strongly, but I don't think that is what drives the show. I don't think FI drives the show really. I don't explore on a deep, almost visceral level my own feelings, my own values, and my own morals, and it's hard for me to stick with my own opinions, right? I feel like an FI dominant would always want to stick with, while they can be flexible and easygoing as well, they will always stick to their own developed value system and feelings and morals and opinions on things, which is not me, really, if I really think about it. I don't think that's me, although it happens occasionally. I think, I'm more inclined to want to be sort of polite and to want to express myself in ways that are making some kind of impact to people emotionally. And whether I want to admit it or not, that is like FE. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, it's like it actually bothers me when I feel like I'm being too individualistic or too in my own zone. It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong on a grand scale, like in terms of like the society. I don't fit into it. Then I don't have any kind of. I feel like I'm not having any kind of impact on it then or influence on it then, right? It feels like I'm being selfish if I just make decisions just for myself. I tend to be also the kind of person that, asks for other people's opinions, asks for confirmation. Like I ask for, is this okay? Can I do this? Is it okay? Instead of like really taking it upon myself to really trust my own, and maybe it's also because I'm an Enneagram 6, but I don't take it upon myself to really trust my own judgment a lot of the time. I don't trust my own feeling on things, even though I have my own personal feelings. Of course I do. I have my own personal values and morals, and everybody does, but I don't feel like that is what's driving the show on a cognitive level. And maybe I'm completely off base, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think it's good to explore these things. It's good to explore your whatever makes you you, or whatever might be your type, right? It's good to explore these things. So I hope nobody kind of comes I don't know, chasing me with pitchforks or something like that for making this video, because it's literally just a step in my own evolution and in my own process of trying to understand myself better, right? But I will listen to any insight or advice that people have. Now, I've been told that I would be an I, which actually makes sense. I've been told that I might be an INFP because a lot of my issues seems to do with FI and SI, kind of like a loop between them. So I tend to think a lot about the past and things that I didn't do or things that I did do that are now influencing me in the present moment in a negative way, usually in a negative way, right? But so that makes sense. But I also think, well, is it absolutely the case that an INFJ or another type can't do that? I feel like even when I rewatch my own videos, I wouldn't look at those videos and say that is an INFP, FI dominant right there. I would think that's an NIFE expression. These are NIFE expressions, it seems, but it's not super developed, and that's where I think the confusion lies partly. Is that I read a lot about INFJs and I relate to so much of it, but a lot of it seems to be about very evolved INFJs, or INFJs who are very, just very in tune with being this helpful person, and they've got this idea, this grand idea, and they can go and make it happen, right? Whereas I'm just kind of spewing ideas, really. I'm just spewing my own thoughts and insights. So I don't know what that is. How is that FINE? Like, I don't understand, to be honest with you. But there are certain things, of course, that I still relate to about INFP. I think the descriptions of INFP are pretty accurate in some case for me. But I think I'm also just more psychological. I'm more psychologically in tune, even though it's not super advanced in me. I think I'm more psychologically in tune than emotionally in tune, right? I'm more in touch with like the bigger picture of psychology and what the way people are. That's kind of my area in a way, rather than this thing about like, oh, I'm gonna explore my own emotional. I do that as well, but not as much. Exploring my own emotional waters, my values, coming up with my own identity, or being aware of my own identity through those things. Some days I'm not aware of my identity at all. I feel like if I do have an identity, which I do, of course, but if I have an identity, it's kind of like it would be more like the psychology buff or the psychology junkie, right? And I love music, and I love music. I love music. I love movies. I love art as well. So that would be more like INFP, but it could be any type. Honestly, any type can be interested in anything. But when I'm looking at the cognitive functions, it just still seems to, I seem to tap in more to the NIFE thing. But maybe that's just that, when I got my typing, I was typed as an INFP, and the guy explained that, I do seem to tap into NI and TI, but it's secondary. It's not part of my first four functions. So, an INFP wouldn't have NI and TI, the first four functions. And so he said that I seem to tap into those as well, and I definitely agree with that. And I think it came across in my answers that I gave him for sure. But I just still feel like maybe it is driving the show. Maybe I'm more of an NI-TI exploration person, if that makes sense. But maybe I'm completely off base. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I am an INFP. I wouldn't think that that's a bad type for me at all. I think it's a good type for me. But I don't know if it's the right type for me. I think I might be an undeveloped INFJ, or like an underdeveloped INFJ, where I have the NI insights, the NI kind of losing myself in reality almost, just kind of exploring reality, not really feeling a part of reality in a way. And then FE, trying to get my points across and harmonize and kind of make an impact or explain these insights to people in like a polite way, or in like a way that takes into account social norms as well. But all those things are not super developed in me. So maybe that is the problem, that I might be an underdeveloped INFJ, or maybe that's just not my type, and that's why those functions are underdeveloped. Because if I'm an INFJ, wouldn't those functions be super developed? I don't know. I'm going to finish up soon, but my last point is just that like maybe my NI is developed, but it's just that the descriptions of INFJs are often about what to me seems to be about a super developed, super evolved INFJ, which I don't think I am. I'm not somebody who goes out into the world and makes a huge difference. But cognitively, I might still be that person. Yeah. So if you want more content from me, do subscribe and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and leave a comment if you have any thoughts about this. I'd be curious to hear. Thank you for watching.